Great conversation. So, Eric, do we have like 5 minutes for questions? And okay. So,
there we go.
Well, I guess I'm here in the podium, so I'm going to ask the first question. So, Justin, I think you brought up two really interesting points about all these, the many sensors that we have, and there's more and more sensors, but the problem of connectivity and also the lack of standardization, that the sensors don't talk to each other. How do you see these going forward? I mean, how we can breach that gap and use technology better?
Yeah, the question about how do we bridge the technology gaps, one we wrangle, and ultimately is really our goal from a company perspective, is that ultimately a platform solution for the sensors to plug into is where the future will lie. And if we look at where that's been successful in other industries, look at Google, look at Microsoft, look at Amazon, those are all platform models essentially that integrate those technologies. And so if I'm working with a sensor today, it's have an API infrastructure that can shift data to a platform that the producer uses every day. And I use ours as an example in that we have a feeding system that the producer spends 4.5 hours a day in, and we look for sensors to plug into that so that the producer doesn't have to change their method of work on a daily basis. And so for the technology people in the crowd, it's look for a platform to plug into that the producer is using on a daily basis.
Interesting. Any questions from the audience?
You have a question on Slido there, if you want to take a look at the screen down front.
Can you read that?
So incorporating precision technology in confined operations seems relatively straightforward, given well and capital, but what about in extensive systems?
Is that for me?
I would, either one, I guess.
Yeah, so I think there's a number of different opportunities as it relates to extensive systems, and arguably I showed one. If you look at where we're using an ultra-high frequency tag with an ultra-high frequency reader over a water. And so what is an opportunity in an extensive system? If you're watering out of creeks and ponds, I recognize that's going to be a bit of a limitation. But at the same time, you can deploy those technologies around a creek and a pond just the same as you can a water. And so I think as you look at technology applications, opportunities, that it's not uncommon to see drone technology used to check and monitor cattle today. And so that's one opportunity. The other one is to take advantage of natural behavior, whether it's as cattle move through areas of constraint, going to other paddocks and using high frequency or some remote sensing device. I think there's a number of ways you can get there in an extensive management system. How you treat and address cattle, that gets a bit more challenging in terms of non-confined systems.
I think there's huge potential. Start simple. I've always wondered why in feedlots we don't have flow meters on our tanks. We measure every ounce of corn that goes into those bunks, but we don't measure water intake. And we could, that is so simple. And I think there's tiny little steps that we can take to build that confidence, Dr. Justin. That'd be a huge red flag if that water intake changed.
So, Dr. Tom, I have a question for you. You've implemented these cattle handling techniques and whisper technology in numerous yards, and you guys have a big lot of yards you consult with. Have you put any metrics to antibiotic use, or could you make a comment on either a reduction, a more efficient stewardship, judicious use along those lines, or what have you seen?
We have been really encouraged by looking at our antimicrobial use, combining stockmanship, being able to greet cattle, getting our nutritionists to work and keep the whole digestive system stable through that introduction phase, and then creating a case definition picture. I'm not going to share specifics with our database, but for instance, our metaphylaxis and mass treatment activity is a fraction of what it was 3 years ago, a fraction, and the cattle are doing better. So no, it's very exciting, very exciting.
Any questions from the audience? Oh, you guys are shy. Must be time for a drink, right?
Well, let's give our panel a round of applause.